Right, okay guys, welcome back. So cylinder head installation, not really much to report. I've got the dowels in there, obviously super clean. One final little wipe with some brake cleaner. Got my tensioner blades in. The gasket had a couple of oily fingerprints on it. Nice and clean. Drop the gasket on. Get it the right way around, Jim. Pay attention. It's been a long day. Right, gasket on. Give the head a wipe. Drop the head on. Don't tip it upside down and have all the shim buckets fall out. Not that I've ever done that, of course. Cam chainy. Rubber knocking stick. It's just tight on that dowel. Did I knock the camera then? Maybe a bit. Okay. Right. Head bolts. Not a top tip, but they've all got washers which need to be oiled. We're going back to the whole stiction torque thing, but yeah, each head bolt has its own washer. It gets oiled. Drop them in, and we'll nip them down with a T-bar, and then we'll do the torquey torque. What are they? It's 25 newton meters and 45 newton meters, I think, on these. I'll flash it on the screen anyway. Yeah, pretty straightforward, really. Nothing to see here. So it's 25 and 46. So initially just nipped down with a T-bar, and then stage one is 25 newton meters. It's very common for a head to be done in two stages. You also often come across the angle thing that we talked about with the big end bolts with a cylinder head, but in the case of this one it isn't. So you start, old news to almost all of you I'm sure, but you start from the inside and work your way outwards. Trying to do it in one continuous movement, like we discussed. Right, so that's 25 newton meters. 46 next. Okay. See that over torque situation? That's what I love about these digital torque wrenches. They'll give you that's still easily within spec, but when you set them up, you set up the parameter, you know, the percentage either side of your target torque that's acceptable, and if it goes over, it gives you a red jobby and shows you the torque. Okay guys, so putting the cams in. First thing we got to do is, we haven't got a top dead center mark on the crankshaft on the other side anymore because it's got those NRC covers on. So how to find top dead center reliably without having a TDC mark. So a couple of tools you need. You need a top dead center stop. This is just a thing that screws down the plug hole with a little rod that you can put in various places and lock it up with a little grub screw. And this is a degree wheel. This is a transparent one. Anyway, yeah, it's not easy. It's great when you're actually doing it with your human eye, but not so good for the camera. But I'll I'll take some still photographs of it as I'm doing it, just so it makes sense. So first thing you want to do is make sure that the engine isn't at top dead center, and screw the TDC stop all the way in. I should probably say, in case I'm causing confusion, the length that this is sticking out is irrelevant. About that much, basically. You'll see how it works in a second. So, and most of you probably already know how it works. So you screw this in till it hits home, till it seats properly. Okay, I'm going to hold the cam chain so I don't get it trapped around the crank. And I'm just going to turn the engine, and this, by the way, will turn independently of the crankshaft. It's on a little rubber noggin on the centre here. Anyway, so I'm going to turn it till the piston hits the TDC stop. And I'm going to adjust this. I'll take a still photograph of this so you can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to line up the little pointer with the TDC mark on here. Right, so hopefully you'll see from that photograph that's on TDC now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it all the way the other way. Nice and slow till it touches again. And I'm going to read off that value. Right, so I've got 21 degrees. So what we do is we move this so it's reading half of that measurement, so 10.5. So that's reading 10.5. Now theoretically, if I go all the way back the other way, it should also read 10.5. You see where I'm going with this, right? Right, so regardless of the direction I turn it in, so it's 10.5 that way and 10.5 that way, which means, whoops, when I take my stop out and turn the crankshaft to top dead center, which is there, get you a photograph of that, that is dead nuts on, top dead center. I hope that makes sense. Really hard to film, so I've had to add some photographs there. Yeah, and now I can do the valve timing. You need to pay attention to some engines. You're actually not doing your valve timing at top dead center, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish I don't want to get into. So yeah, so there's top dead center. It's top dead center on number 1 and number 4, obviously, and depending on how you time it, either number 1 will be on the top of the exhaust or the top of the compression stroke, and vice versa on number 4. Anyway, don't want to get into that. You're timing it TDC compression stroke number 1 when you put the cams in. It's not a valve timing how-to, but that's just a quick little how do you get TDC. I did mention, I think I did mention there's a couple of ways. Some people use a dial gauge down the spark plug hole. I'm not even going to, a DTI, a dial test indicator, I'm not even going to go there because it's not that accurate. Because when you're at top dead center, a few degrees either side of TDC, when you take into account the play in the big end bearing and stuff, it's not accurate. That is true top dead center. You can't get any more accurate than that. That's the law. Right, so camshaft's in. I'll probably time lapse this. I'm going to pop the cams in, cam chain tensioner in, and then what I'll do is, although I know the valve clearances are all good because I did them on the bench, I'll probably, well, I always, just because I like to sleep at night, I'll recheck all the valve clearances. We'll put the cam cover on with a new cam cover gasket, and then she's ready to go in the frame. Oh, and generator cover, put the generator cover on then. And yeah, and then it's ready to go in the frame. Oh, there's a little covery thing there as well, water pump. I'll leave all that stuff off till it's in the frame. It's easy to do when it's in the frame, and it just, not that it makes it lighter, but the smaller the lump, you know, it's easier just to manipulate into the frame rather than having the water pump in the way, and you get the idea. Anyway, Time lapse of cams going in, and then it's time to put it in the frame. Happy days. Right, torquing up of these bolts, pretty straightforward. They're 10 Newton meters, which is 7.5 foot-pounds, something like that. And then they cast numbers into the, there's an order to do them up, basically, is what I'm telling you. And the numbers are cast into the aluminium of the camshaft cap, so you can't get it wrong. 1, 2, where are we? This side here. 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's all tight. What I'm going to do now, I'll spin the engine over a few cycles, and then I'll redo my TDC mark, and I'll double check my valve timing. Then I'm going to recheck all the valve clearances, and if that all checks out well, which I'm confident it will, 4 O-rings and 4 little dowels, new cam cover gasket, put the cam cover on, button that up, good to go. There's a little bit of cam lube on there. What I'll do is, you'll see as we start it, but I'll either disable the ignition system or the fuel pump, and we'll crank it until the oil light goes out, so we know we've got oil everywhere and got good oil pressure before we fire it up, but we'll get to that. So spin it over a few times, double check the valve timing, do the valve clearances, lid on, and then it's, oh, we've got generator cover to do. Take my degree wheel off this side, put that generator cover on, and then it's ready to go in. I still haven't done the Cerakoting of the clutch cover, but I'll get to that probably later on today. Yeah, we start putting it back in the frame. Happy days. So Suzuki do, how to say, normally with most bikes you'll have a line for the exhaust cam and you'll have a line for the inlet cam. I'll flash a picture of the valve timing diagram on the screen, but with Suzuki's, which I much prefer, you always put the exhaust cam in, how to say this, so depending on which side the cam chain tensioner is, because some engines rotate in a different direction, let's not go there. You know you've got the tensioner blade on one side and the straight blade on the other. You always time on the non-tension side, so you pull the chain tight against the crankshaft, so there's no slack, and then you line up the mark on that straight run down that isn't the tension side. Is that making sense? What Suzuki do, which I like, is they get you to time the exhaust cam and then count. There's another mark. I'll show you the diagram like I said on the screen. You count 14 pins, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So you time the inlet cam off the exhaust cam. Most other manufacturers do a mark on the inlet camshaft as well, which is a little bit trickier sometimes to get right. If you can just count pins, you can just, you know, when you put the inlet cam in, yeah, you know what I'm saying. And I think you might have seen, I just use a little Velcro strap, but you can use a cable tie. But once you know you've got the exhaust cam in the right place, you cable tie. It's not always possible because the sprockets are solid. Sorry, I'm going on, aren't I? The sprockets are sometimes solid, so you can't get a cable tie around it. But Suzuki specifically make a hole in the camshaft. That hole in the camshaft is there to, I'll take you a picture of this side actually so you can see it. So the hole in the camshaft is there specifically to put a cable tie through. Well, there's 2 holes, one inlet, one exhaust. So you can cable tie the chain to the sprockets while you tighten the camshaft caps down, because it has a habit of jumping a tooth otherwise. Anyway, Right, so the valve timing looks spot on. Valve clearances next. Right, so checking valve clearances. I don't really want to turn this into a how-to, so just do the inlet side. I'm not doing any of this, get the engine at TDC on a certain cylinder and do certain fucking combinations of whatever bollocks. I'm just getting the cam in the right position, which is really how you should be doing it. It makes life way more simple. I don't know why they tell you to, well, I know why they tell you to do anyway, fucking hell. Right, so inlet side, 4 to 8 thou, okay? So, excuse me, I use the go, won't go principle. So, let's say we got a 7 thou, I try and put a 7 in, so that goes in. Oh, hang on a minute, let's start low, that's probably the easiest way. So, 4 thou goes in, 5 thou goes in, 6 thou goes in, 7 thou won't go, 7 thou won't go. So those two are 6 thou. Where's my spanner? Turn the engine, get the cam in the right place. Same thing again. 4 goes, 5 goes. Not a lot of pressure, just, you can see what I'm doing. 6, 4, just goes. 7 won't go. Oh, 7, bit tight on that 7. So you get the idea. Next one. 4, 5, 6, 7, okay. So yeah, it's all good. I've done the exhaust side, that's all fine. With Golden, I've double checked the valve timing a couple of times. It's definitely, I'm just a little bit OCD. I don't know why, I've done it like 100,000 bloody times probably, but you never quite get over that. Anybody that's built an engine will know this. Doesn't matter how OCD you are and how much attention you've paid, when you first hit that start button, there's always a little piece of poo ready to come out for some reason. Right, anyway, cam cover on now, and generator cover, probably won't even film that. It's like put the generator cover on with a gasket and a few bolts, and then we'll time lapse the engine back into the frame. We're getting close, guys, we're getting close. That is it, guys, that's the end of part 6. So, one more part to go, which is going to be putting the engine in the frame and getting it running and road testing and all that good stuff. So, yeah, we're done. See you in part 7.